Welcome to King Lizzard's Game Lounge and Forza Motorsport 6 and my achievement guide walkthrough for the Forest Fire achievement, which is a 15-pointer. Only 0.23 of the community have got this, who own this DLC, if you like. So basically it's all about setting a lap time of under 1 minute 30 seconds on Virginia International Raceway. So you need that Porsche Pack DLC to do this. And I'm going to do this in 3 cars: the Lotus E23, which is part of Forza Motorsport 6, the Ferrari Scuderia number 1, and the Honda McLaren number 12. Both of those final cars are actually DLC cars, so you will need car pack pass or individual DLC for those vehicles. So this is the tune setup that I used for the Lotus E23, and the areas of focus here that I changed the PSI, lowered the tyre PSI so that I get more tyre on track, better grip, because it's quite a technical circuit. The gearing I stretched out slightly, so I spend more time in lower gears, making it easier to corner. The alignment on the front caster I changed slightly just to make the car less twitchy. And then the downforce, I took away some of the front downforce so I can turn easier on the front, but I also increased the rear downforce so that it keeps the rear of this Lotus E23 on the track, because it was quite twitchy and quite slidey as an out of the stock vehicle on this circuit. So into my final run, this is the run where I set my best time in the 2015 E23 Lotus. And the key thing with this vehicle is it's a very long wheelbase vehicle, so it's quite a large vehicle to get around this VIR circuit, especially this corner here. Really nasty corner that for the vehicle, so you really do need to get used to the track with this vehicle and slowing down into the corners enough to be able to make it around the corner without chucking a part of the car off the track. Now these sections you can pretty much flat this out and treat it almost like a straight line. You want to roll this particular section here, otherwise you're going to go off wide. Slow right down for this section, try and keep as much roll resistance as you can around the corner without accelerating. If you accelerate too early, you're going to go wide and come off on the U-bend. Flat out on this section. This Lotus E23 is a very low down vehicle, and because of the amount of downforce I've got in the vehicle, you've got no worries of being chucked off track. Slow right down on this corner, a real difficult corner this one, and then we've got some very technical section coming up here. We can afford to flat it out through this, slow it down, roll it through there, accelerate out, and then straight into the finish. And it's quite a tough drive this. I did quite a few run throughs. This was my 3rd set of attempts on this circuit, and I was able to pull in that 1 minute 28.748, which is a good second and a half off of that 1 minute 30 we need for the achievement. So I was able to acquire the achievement using the E23 Lotus. Now I do have my tune saved, so if you want to just grab my tune and not bother to set up your own tune, you can do that. Just look for my gamertag King Space Lizard with 2 Z's, and I'll put that at the end of the video just so you can easily find me if you like in the game, and then just download my tune. This tune is more than capable of doing this circuit, and I'll be honest, I probably could have shaved another 4 or 5 seconds off of this had I kept trying, because there was a few things I did I felt I could have done a little bit better. But this is a pretty rapid lap as far as laps go on this Virginia International Raceway. Really difficult track this, and I'll be honest, it's probably the track I least would like to do a really difficult achievement on. But I was able to bag it, so I'm quite happy with that. And obviously, as I said, my tune is available under the gamer tag of King Space Lizard with 2 Z's. Now, I'm interested to see how you guys do with this. You'll probably beat my time, I suspect, some of you out there. So post in the comments what times you get. I'm really interested to see how you guys do against my time, and also that will drive me to jump back in here and retry and obviously improve my time overall. Now, after that 1 minute 28.748 seconds, that put me in the top 10% in the world, which isn't too bad, and in a place of 1,440th out of 14,737 players. So quite a nice place. However, I was looking to do better, hence why I jumped into the next vehicle, which is this number 1 1990 Scuderia Ferrari 641. Now, this vehicle was slightly shorter than the Lotus E23, but it's also wider, and it's, you know, reasonably tough vehicle. So on this vehicle, I focused again on lowering the PSI because I want more traction on track, because it's quite a technical track. The gearing, I shortened the final drive on this vehicle so that I've got a faster launch, but also it allowed me to balance gear ratios and keep the car in lower gears around some of the corners, because obviously lower gears, it's easier to negotiate a corner than in a higher gear. The other thing I did was I adjusted the aero, front and rear downforce. Other than that, I didn't touch anything else on this vehicle in terms of tuning. I didn't go into things like the alignments and stuff too much on these types of vehicles, purely because these are, you know, pure racing bred vehicles. So they're generally set up well enough to do, you know, a very good job. However, obviously with Virginia International Raceway, it's not a standard racing circuit. It's not a GP circuit or a Formula One circuit. So as a result, you know, I'm making these minor changes so that I can get the car around the track. So off with this number 1 Scuderia. This car I found was a little bit better on the corners. Initially it was quite slidey on the rear, and even with this tune it is still a little bit on the twitchy side, but it's definitely a lot better than it was initially when I first drove this car. This car, I was going off track a fair amount on this circuit because I was just finding it, you know, just too light and too twitchy. So by tightening things up, by lowering the PSI, changing the gear ratios and stuff, I was able to, you know, get a much better controllable vehicle out of this. So much so, I was actually able to flat that corner out without having to slow down, which was a first for any vehicle. I was able to keep this corner a little bit tighter, and at this point I'm actually ahead of my rival here. My rival set a really good time, which I don't actually beat in this particular set of run-throughs. However, I'm actually ahead of my rival here. So this car clearly has a bit more top end, but my braking just wasn't good enough to be able to slow down without danger of coming off track, which is why I kind of, you know, lost that little bit of an edge on my rival in the end. In addition, my rival seemed to pull out of that corner a lot quicker than me in the E23 as well. So overall, my E23 tune may be the better tune for this circuit, but, you know, with the Scuderia, I was able to actually take almost a complete second off my time. So in the number 1 Scuderia, I was able to come in at 1 minute 27 seconds .628, and that put me in the top 5% in the world, which I was very happy with. That gave me a placing of 736th out of 14,737 players. So that's quite a nice place to be. Again, I feel like I lost probably a good 4 or 5 seconds here in this vehicle, and that I probably, with a lot more patience and time and better focus, if you like, do a much better time than this. Now, the world leaderboard time was a 118.521 on this particular circuit at the time I did the video, and that is obviously, you know, based on what I've just done here with the 127. That's almost 10 seconds better than what I'm doing, which, you know, is quite disheartening when you've raced your guts out and gone around a circuit. But for me, this is the best I could do at the moment. I was pretty happy with this, and obviously this is a good 2 seconds clear of that achievement, 1 minute 30 seconds. So this is a good car definitely to do this particular achievement, this fast fire achievement for. Now again, I've saved the tune so you can get this with my gamertag if you want to try it, but obviously this car is a DLC car, so if you're not a car season pass holder, you'd have to buy the number 1 Scuderia. And there's the times proving my placings. Now, the other thing I did with these races, I should have said earlier, was that I turned on TCS and STM, and I also turned on automatic gearing. Now, the reason I've done that is because I want to make this video possible for everyone. Now, I could quite easily beat my times by going manual and also turning off TCS and STM and balancing that out. I could, again, increase my time in terms of, decreasing my time, I should say, to get a better time. But I wanted this guide to apply to everyone. So anyone out there that's an auto driver, doesn't like manual gearing, doesn't like having STM off or TCS off, then they can jump straight in, grab my tune and do this achievement just by driving the track well. Now, finally, I chose the 1988 number 12 Honda McLaren MP4/4, and again, I lowered the PSI, so I've got more traction on track. The gearing, I set a closer ratio, and basically trying to give me better control through the corners. This car has less gears than the other vehicles, and I was just finding that it was just really difficult to get this car around some of the higher gears. As a result, I deliberately stretched the gears out so I could get around a lot of the more technical corners in third gear. That way, it was easier to maneuver, if you like, during cornering and stuff. The other thing I did was I took the front caster angle down to 4.5 because the front of this vehicle was acting quite strangely and proving quite difficult to control through some of the corners. The other thing I finally did was I took downforce off of the front of the vehicle down to 615, and I increased the downforce on the rear of the vehicle to 1,105 pounds, and that was very high for this vehicle, but it was necessary because the rear end of this vehicle on this particular circuit really was quite lively and causing me lots of problems. So again, this is a shorter vehicle than the E23, similar size to the number 1 Scuderia, and maneuverability, as I said, I had to kind of control the maneuverability to make it more difficult to steer because it was just too light before, and it would just kind of, I'd kind of just go over that corner that little bit. I mean, I nearly came off there on that section. I was, however, going flat out. But as you can see, I'm actually up with my rival in this vehicle at this point. However, he leaves me for dead on the straight. The thing I found with this vehicle was that there isn't enough gear ratio to keep the higher speeds. So this vehicle was finding it a lot tougher on the straights and the very fast sections than the Scuderia or the Lotus E23. It's still able, as I proved in this run through, to beat this achievement, but it's quite tight. I managed to do it with just almost a second under that 1 minute 30 seconds. So in this vehicle, I come in a 1 minute 29.077, which, as I said, is just under a second under the 1 minute 30 we need to get the achievement, the forest fire achievement. And this vehicle, it was an okay vehicle. I mean, probably with more time, more tuning, I could get a better time out of this vehicle. But for me, in order to make your life easiest, obviously if you don't have the DLC, the Lotus E23 2015 is the car for you. If you do have the DLC and you want to get the best time possible, that number 1 Scuderia Ferrari 641 seems to be, the car for the job. That definitely got me the best time, and I even felt like I could get more seconds out of that. So all of these tunes are available, as I said, under my GAMERTAG. So if you search for me in Forza Motorsport 6 under tunes for these particular vehicles, look for the GAMERTAG King Space Lizard, all lowercase with a space in the middle, and you'll find my tunes. And then that way, if you don't want to set up your own tunes, you can just chuck this, my tune on and then run the race and just race to your heart's content and get the best time. Obviously, I put the tuning information in here because some of you were sending me messages about how I tuned the vehicle, so I wanted to share a little bit about how I did that. You can see the settings I've set in this video, and then maybe take those, apply them to your own tunes and play around and learn how to tune. I mean, that's how I did it. Someone helped me way back with Forza Motorsport 2, and that's how I learned to tune in this game. And since then, I've kind of learnt by error, and I've got a generic concept of how I tune cars now based on my previous experiences. So as you can see there, I wasn't able to beat that number 1 Scuderia. So I hope you found this useful and interesting, and hopefully this will help you bag the achievement. Please remember to click that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. Take care, keep well, and keep watching.